Hey yo, welcome back to the season of F1 2023. Yes, we're back once again for the calendar, the longest calendar in the history, 23 races, with 3 races in the USA, most of them in Europe, and of course going to Singapore, Japan, and all these places of the world, starting by this racetrack that you see on the screen. Bahrain Sakir, however you want to call it, to the usual layout without going the quick layout that we had in 2021. And of course it's going to be a night race, one of the few in the calendar. You have this one, you have Jeddah, you have Abu Dhabi, which is kind of like dusk, right? And you have Singapore, if I'm not mistaken. There is no more. So, what can we expect of this season? Let's start by having some quick news with some effects this season. And a nice background, anyway. So McLaren is going to be using, or keep using, the dynamic sponsorship. They have a partnership with Seamless Digital, which I wrote it wrong. If I did everything right, it would not be my channel. Anyway, they will keep using the same things that they were using last season with this dynamic sponsorship, digital, kind of new. They all think they already used it kind of in IndyCar, but anyway. They used it in 3 races in the end of 2022, and they will use it officially for the season in 2023. You can see there are some panels that they put in there. They're very thin, very light, as you can see in the description, 2,200 grams per panel, which seeing how all the F1 teams have been struggling with the weight of the paint and everything, trying to reduce every single gram they can, putting an extra 200 grams in the car. Looks a little bit risky, but anyway, it kind of looks good. You could see last year, in the McLaren, this Google Chrome and everything. Looks nicer instead of having just a sticker on the car, right? Anyway, and you can also add it in the helmet, in some small areas for 16 extra grams for the helmet. Looks like no driver issues or no safety issues for the driver. So yeah, what else do we have? Lance Stroll is going to be racing finally in Bahrain. I think this is going to be bad news for Djokovic, who was expecting to have his debut in the Aston Martin. He did the pre-season, but of course Stroll has been racing there for several years already, since 2017 if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, he will be racing. He had some bike accident where he fell. He broke the wrist. He had some surgery. He was recovering for the race. It looks like he's fit. We will see if he can manage the whole weekend. He didn't have a pre-season testing. Anyway, it's only 3 days. But still, knowing the car is much better than not doing anything at all. So let's see how he does on this weekend with the Aston Martin that looks quite good. We have some news that the F1 released within these days, that they had a record revenue last year, right? They had an average attendance on all the racetracks together of 5.7 million people, which seeing how with COVID years and everything, it's kind of a big increase, and 39% more than 2019, which was the pre-COVID last season, right? So the revenue went up by 20% to 2.5 billion US dollars, 2.5 billion US dollars, from which I think they take more or less like 400 or 500 million US dollars. The rest, 1.1, 1.2, you want to call it, 1.1 billion go to the teams, which is spread kind of evenly some part, and then of course the higher you go in the position in the championship, more money you get. But of course this also comes with more spending, right? Went from 421 to 593 million US dollars. Of course, part of this also was spent organizing the Miami Grand Prix, and also focusing on the Las Vegas Grand Prix, which are the 2 Grand Prix, the only ones that are 100% managed by the F1 or Liberty, or you want to call it. The rest, they just have to pay a canon to, or a toll, however you want to call it, to be in F1. Miami and Las Vegas are the ones who are made by F1. So, the race. What can we expect? It's gonna be rainy. Come on, who are we lying, right? Sunny, 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 and more or less it's gonna be the temperatures that you see on the screen, around 17, 18 minimum temperature, which is gonna be at night, 27 to 29 Celsius during the day, or the hottest time of the day. The temperature expected, for example, you can see here at the FP3, 26, 27. But remember, the FP3 is not done at the time of the race. It's done a little bit quicker, as you can see here. The qualifying, for example, 23 Celsius. That's more or less what's gonna be looking like at the race, as you can see here. 22, 23. So it's gonna be colder than in the free practice. Same thing is gonna be for free practice 1. So free practice 2 and the qualifying are gonna be more important than free practice 1 and free practice 3, because the temperatures are gonna be different and the temperatures affect the cars quite a lot. But anyway, you can see here 0% chance of rain for all the days. Anyone expected anything different? Anyway, you can see here the layout of the track. You have 3 DRS zones, detection 3, detection 1, detection 2. So you can overtake here. If you're ahead, the other car can fight back on this straight line ahead of corner 4. And then here you can also fight once again. So pulling away from the car behind you might be a little bit tricky. And you can create a train of DRS and all those things that we saw in the past, for example, right? So what is the racetrack like? So for the cars, you can see traction 4, braking 4, hard on the brakes. Of course, you have like a first corner, this corner, this corner. It requires kind of a brake. It's not the hardest on the brake, but still. Track evolution. It's not a racetrack that is used a lot during the year, so as the more the cars are on the track, the better for the grip of the cars, right? Asphalt grip 3, as I mentioned. There are sandstorms and everything. That the racetrack is not the cleanest you can expect. It's kind of dirty, so asphalt grip at the beginning is going to be bad, but it will keep improving as the cars are on the track more and more. And here you can see the lateral forces, tire stress. It's a 3. It's not like fast corners you don't have. It's mainly straight lines followed by big hairpins, right? Again, here you have this one, you have a hairpin, you have a hairpin. Not the toughest on the tires. Asphalt abrasion 5, it is kind of hard on the tires. Yes, we might see a race to 2 pit stops, as we might have seen in the past. Going for 1 with a medium and hard might be a little bit suicidal, but nothing can be discarded, right? And downforce is going to be a 3. As I mentioned, you don't have really high-speed corners, so straight lines followed by hairpins, so you don't need a big downforce as you might need in other racetracks such as Monaco, for example. I don't know. Anyway, the tires for the race are C3, C2, and C1, which is the hardest possible. Remember, we have up to C5, where C5 being the softest, C1 being the hardest. So they will choose the hardest one due to the asphalt abrasion being number 5, as you can see right here. Number of laps, 57, 5.4 kilometers for the racetrack. Not the longest, not the shortest, it's kind of the average. 308 kilometers. Remember, all the F1 races require to have at least 300 kilometers as a race distance, except for Monaco. And the lap record was 1 minute and 31 seconds. By Pedro de la Rosa in 2006 or 2005, something like this. Anyway, let's go to the prediction. So I think as the first race, and seeing what we saw in the preseason testing, even though nobody was showing exactly everything they had, but we all saw something that one car had, which is the Red Bull. The Red Bull looks like the car to beat, looks like they are slightly ahead of Ferrari and Mercedes, and the surprise of the winter testing, which was kind of already announced long ago, Aston Martin. So I will say that Max Verstappen will be doing the pole position, kind of a clear choice. is the fastest driver of Red Bull, and if they have the fastest car, then nothing to do against him. For the race, on the other hand, notice I finally wrote George Russell properly. Again, Max Verstappen is going to dominate if nothing goes wrong in the car, as we saw last season where they had some mechanical failures in the engine or the power unit, or however you want to call it. So I think he will win the race, followed by Charles Leclerc, and a surprise Fernando Alonso on the podium. It's a racetrack that Alonso usually does quite well. And the Aston Martin looks like it's kind of on the possibility of being able to fight with the big teams, right? Not Red Bull, but perhaps Ferrari and of course Mercedes. I think Mercedes, the racetrack does not suit the car very well. That's why I put them out of the podium. But anyway, Alonso in the podium. I will put Perez. Of course, he has the Red Bull. So P4, it's a racetrack where he got his first victory with Racing Point. So I think he will be in P4, Carlos Sainz P5, and then we will have both Mercedeses in P6 and 7 due to having kind of a gap between these 3, now 4 teams and the rest, right? Let's see Aston Martin how it behaves in the whole championship. Looks like in this racetrack they are doing very well, but let's see how they do in other race tracks. I think the Alpines were hiding a lot, and this is rumored and kind of confirmed, because they were not giving time or testing time to trying to go fast, but trying to know the issues in the car, to identify key areas of the car, to improve how things were behaving and all that. So I think the Alpines will be kind of not in the battle, but closer than last year, perhaps comparing to Mercedes, for example, with Gasly ahead of Ocon. And let's pay attention to this battle. It's going to be kind of interesting. They are not the best friends. It looks like so far everything is smiles in the team. I'm guessing Zavnoya has already explained and made it crystal clear, no fighting on track. And let's see how those smiles in the team can last during the season until there's some kind of contact or something, and it gets stormy inside the Alpine garage. And P10, I will put one of the Alfa Romeos. Looked like they were doing kind of well here as well in the preseason testing. I put Bottas and not Joe. Bottas has more experience. So let's see how this goes. I didn't put Stroll. I think you noticed I didn't put Stroll in the top 10 as he missed the preseason testing. He still has a broken wrist. Let's see how he goes. But I don't think he will be in the top 10 due to being, let's say, out of shape. Not physically, but out of shape in relation to driving an F1 car. Anything related to this on Sunday is pure miracle, except for Max Verstappen's victory. I think everybody can see that, right? Safety car probability is not very high, same like virtual safety car. Not many accidents, even though we saw the one from Grosjean. But still, it's not a racetrack where you will see safety cars a lot. It's very strange to see this. It's not a, how to say this, urban street racetrack, right? You have spaces. If there's accidents, it's kind of easy to extract the car. There are runways, so no, not a lot of safety car probabilities, and you lose around 22.5 seconds and 24, something like this, between pit stops. So undercuts, pay attention to that, if there are 2 stops, and so on. And now for the quiz time. Which corner is the only one that has a name in this racetrack? There is only one corner in this racetrack that has a driver's name. Turn 4, Ayrton Senna. Turn 1, Michael Schumacher, however you want to call it. And I don't know why those turned the other way. Turn 6, Lewis Hamilton. Turn 8, Nico Rosberg, who was kind of good in this racetrack as well. And turn 10, Fernando Alonso, which I mentioned before, has a good relationship with this racetrack as well. If you know the answer, put it in the comments. And as usual, there's no reward for anything, just for fun. If you know the answer, give the opinion. Okay, so see you for the race. Take it easy and let's enjoy this new season of F1. And